Yes!
We're here!
Hey, did it! First time. You know, it's your first time on these.
It is. It is. Yes. As you know, I had to re-download the app to be able to join.
Oh well, we thank you so much for trying again and bearing with us, and thank you to everyone who's joined. So people were just starting to come in. So I think because we're already sort of a couple of minutes in, we're only a couple of minutes late, to be honest, Thierry. So it's fine. It's absolutely fine. So hi, Sally. So people are still starting to come in. So should we make a start, Thierry? Are you happy to? Yes.
Absolutely. Let's do that. Yes.
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
It's nice to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, Penny's just one of my colleagues has just put some hearts on the screen. Oh. So where should we start? I've made lots of notes actually before I came in, trying to feel super organised because there's so many different to cover in terms of your very polymathic, I would say, an interdisciplinary practice. So we've got a lot to cover. But just for people on the call and who are starting to join us who might not know of you and your work, do you want to give a very quick, because I started to think, how would I introduce Thierry? And I started to come up with quite a long list. So I thought maybe it's better if you introduce yourself.
Thank you for that.
Tricky, isn't it? It's tricky where to start.
It is, because you know it's just so difficult to really give a picture of, I suppose, what I'm trying to do. But essentially, I distilled into a very succinct presentation. I would say that I am a costume and installation-based performance artist. This has been, in the past few years, the main medium through which I've expressed myself. I am also a painter and community organizer, an events organizer. I trained as a physical comedian / modern clown too. And
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that bit, right? I was just remembering while having a shave in front of the mirror. I was thinking, oh yes, I'm a clown too. I forgot about that one. One of the reasons you don't know, and very few people actually know, and that's what they're most curious about actually, is because I've never actually had the guts to bring it on the stage. Because it's such a different dynamic to what I'm used to, where you kind of like present an extraordinary vision and you kind of like take people somewhere and kind of like, you know, give them something just surreal and superb and, you know, just so enigmatic and marvelous. And they can go away and process it however they want. But with clown, there's always this terror that you're not going to get the laugh. Yeah, it's such an instant art form.
Yeah. Some people have got funny bones, haven't they? My oldest daughter's got funny bones. It's just they're just funny.
Yeah.
I think there's something very compelling anyway about you, and I think whatever you did, Thierry, you would capture people's attention. Yeah, I mean those were some of the very things that I had on my list as well. But I was trying to wind back as well. I was trying to think, where did we actually meet? And you probably don't remember, but I remember actually. I remember it was when we were at the 12-Star Gallery.
For real?
Yes. I thought you'd forgot. Yes, it was there. And sadly, pre-Brexit days when we were all still European, when you're right, you could go back to France. But yes, so it was so it was some while ago now. And I remember being there, and it was lovely. It was a great event. I think it was an artist exhibition. I forget which one. But I remember looking around thinking, now, who looks interesting? Who do I want to talk to? And you had the most fantastic outfit on. And it's amazing. I was like, okay, I'm going over there. That's where it's happening. And that was where I first spoke to you. and you started to talk about your sort of interdisciplinary, your practice, and it really does fuse lots of different things. So, I mean, there's a very clear interest clearly there, isn't there, in fashion, but also spoken word and sculpture, and quite often sort of living sculpture, sort of immersive. You get very immersive into what you're doing in different ways, but also spoken word, and also mark making, drawing, painting. So it's a very, yes, it is a very sort of interconnected practice that you had. And so I was very interested about that when I first met you. And then I remember more recently when I was looking at your Instagram feed, or one of your Instagram feeds, I was quite taken, because apart from all the sort of the visual representations of all the different facets of your practice, which we can get into, I was really interested that also there was quite a few other artists' drawings of you, as well as your own artwork and your own drawings. And I mean, we're not here to, I mean, obviously the big draw, it's visual literacy, it's visual thinking, it's creativity. So we can touch a bit maybe on mark making, because I think the line, actually, I see that quite a lot coming through your work in different ways, in different, you know, with the dance and the movement and the performance. But it was quite interesting that just very quickly I could see sort of 8, 9, 10 different artists, probably friends, colleagues, people that you've worked with, who had been inspired to actually draw you. And quite often with a hat on, not always, but quite often a certain angle, there's a certain look, but obviously in all their own different styles. And I just thought that was sort of super interesting, really, that knock-on effect of being, because obviously you've done modelling as well for drawing and sketching. We can talk about, you've been on both sides, actually, haven't you? You've been on both sides of the drawing board. So that's quite an interesting standpoint. But I thought there's something really interesting here. This person's very creative. Not even just very creative. They have, I would say they have to be creative to be healthy. Almost, they have to be creative all the time. They have to be, it's intrinsic to their being, to their essence. But then you're also obviously inspiring a lot of people around you in different ways. So I thought, and I think that was why when we got back in touch, I thought this is something really, really interesting going on here. But I know that you have lots of other things that you're doing. You know, you have a big passion for the environment and the connections to nature and the earth, and how that links back to dance. And I don't know how to say it, but the movement, is that Buto? How do I?
Buto, yes.
Buto. Very, all of that. So, you know, very earthy, the mythology, the senses, getting back to ourselves. So I just found it all very, very interesting and very closely aligned to a lot of the themes that we have for our Make the Change theme this year, which is all about really living better, healthy, happier lives and balance with nature, but also with communities and kindness and diversity and equality and all of those things that, well, I think probably are on people's radar more after all some of the horrors that happened last year. And I know some of these, well, many of those things I know resonate with you as well. So I suppose I wanted to give it a start, trying to pull in from some other threads from our perspective about, you know, if people say, oh, well, you know, why Thierry? Well, this is why, because as you can see, for people who are just on the call, there's an awful lot there that we can explore. And just to say that for people who join us on this, obviously with this will sit and it will stay on our Instagram TV feed as a resource for people to come and see it afterwards. So we're hoping that you'll be able to share it with your friends so that more people can listen to what Thierry has to share. But also we'll take it and we'll put it, if that's okay with you, Thierry, on YouTube as well, and send you the MP4 and all the rest of it. So we're hoping to more widely share this, I think is what we're saying. So just so people are aware of that. Where should we start? Do you want to start? Should we start in France, where you were born? What it was like? Was it a creative upbringing?
No.
In rural France?
No. Very bare. Very bare. The kind of a house, someone called them a cool box house. That I grew up in, you know, just very clean and very sterile.
Yeah. I haven't heard that. It's like the opposite of hot housing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I guess so. But your cool box is like somewhere that you keep always really, really clean and tidy, and you just put it away, and nothing really happens in it ever, except when you go you go picnicking about once a year and use it, and you know, and that's just like a show space, really, which. it must have been quite depressing, really. I mean, I was there, and in some way, I think I wasn't, because it felt like such an alien environment to my fantasy-laden aspirations that I kind of blocked out and sort of like emotionally removed myself from the situation just to be able to survive it. And as I was saying in a written interview that your colleague took with me,
which will be going out this week. So again, people to watch it. We can make sure we flag that at the end as well before we sign off.
Exciting. Thank you. The school curriculum. Now we're talking in early 90s. Is when I was coming into teenagehood, and the school curriculum was, pretty conventional, and there was 1 hour of art plastic every week.
I love it.
Art plastic, I know, and actually the one thing I remember about it was us looking in magazines, looking at perfume adverts. And adverts of all types, actually, but I picked a perfume one, of course, and we had to describe what we saw, how we thought the art had been put together, why, what emotions they were trying to convey, and all that. So really, not terribly creative, in itself. It was just kind of like looking at other people's work and kind of like connecting with things on an intellectual level. I only ever felt that I was being immersed into something relevant at school when our music teacher showed us a filmed version of Starmania, and Starmania is a dystopian musical based in an underground city, and it's actually coming back out next year in Paris. They have an enormous production of it because it is literally one of the most timeless pieces of art ever. It's just utterly brilliant. And being shown that, and I just remember kind of like thinking, oh my God, there's a world out there. There's possibilities. There's things happening. There's storytelling. There's culture, queerness, weirdness, violence. Like all the stuff that is so cleaned out of the little rural French existence.
Oh, do you still have family there?
I have, yes.
You do? Yeah.
Yes, I have a younger brother. My parents live there. I still have one grandmother, uncles, aunts, cousins. They're all out there. I haven't got anyone on this side of the channel.
So at the moment, you're based over this side, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. I have been for 25 years now. Yeah.
And so just threading back in, so going back to some of my sort of more structured notes that I've got. So you came over to London and you did do a sensible job, didn't you? A sort of sensible corporate job.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, because of the lack of stimulation and inspiration that I experienced in France, I came here with a true corporate future in mind, and I wanted to work, and I did it. I wanted to work in a 5-star hotel. I just wanted. I mean, initially I wanted to be a waiter, waitress, and then I got into the 5-star industry, which was always my aspiration. I don't know why. I just I turned 16 and I thought, that's what I want. I want luxury. I want beautiful people. I want wealth, opulence, possibilities, beauty. Perhaps a sugar daddy.
Sorry, I should have said that. Sorry. Scrap that bit, Sandra.
What did you say?
I said, don't we all?
Ah!
No, scrap that. That's not.
Well, we do, and I, you know, and I arrived in London with nothing.
Right. I mean, how old were you then when you headed over to London?
I just turned 19.
Gosh, you were a baby.
I was a baby, and I was a double baby because I had lived such a sheltered life. I mean, you wouldn't believe how sheltered. And suddenly I actually walked out, you know, without support, without, you know, money, without a job, without any contacts here, nothing. And just my school pidgin English. I'm sorry?
Very brave, I think. I mean, I think we must be about the same age because our cultural references are very similar. I mean, it was similar for me. I mean, just the thought of going over to France at 19 with no money and no job, I mean, terrifying.
Yeah, I think what was terrifying is the fact I didn't feel I had a rewind option. You know, I didn't have a sense that I could go back, just because of the circumstances in which I decided to leave. And so my dream was, you know, this 5-star hotel, and I got a job in one of those, and it was hell for a while. And eventually things started coming into place, and I got, you know, friends and people supporting me here, and more secure places to live. And then I moved on to another 5-star hotel because I decided, actually, I don't want to be doing waitering. I mean, it's like the fantasy of it, I don't know why, was always so brilliant. I mean, the thing, Kate, is I knew I wanted to be of service, right?
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's what emerged later in life. I wanted to be of service. And when you live a very sheltered and uncultured life, being of service, the first protocol is to serve people, literally speaking. And I think that's why I ended up doing that type of work. But very quickly I realized how hard work that was. I mean, I can't believe, you know, that people can do that work for years and years and years and years. I just remember the agony of my feet and legs and the exhaustion. It just felt like, you know, slavery. And I asked the hotel, I said, oh, what about the concierge? I said, I see them all day long, you know, like, oh, no, on the telephone, and doing a bit of schmoozing and pointing things, you know, people, places, and, you know, escorting people around. I thought, that's what I want to do. And they said, no.
Oh.
They wouldn't promote me, so I left, and I went to a 5-star hotel, literally 2 minutes walk from that first one. So the second one was the Mandarin Oriental Hyde Park Hotel, across Harvey Nichols and Knightsbridge. And they took me on as a concierge assistant, which was really just a glorified word for luggage porter. But at least, you know, I was kind of like, you know, just a bit closer to where I wanted to be. And before too long, I upgraded to cashier, to receptionist, sorry, and then to cashier and receptionist. And that's when my double sort of life started. You know, that's the point where my creativity
trying to break free
emerged, literally just emerged while I was in that situation. And I went on to run private members clubs, the incredible Home House Club in Portman Square in its heydays.
Isn't it? Because obviously with all the concierge stuff and the stuff that you did, working around in this sort of luxury environment, and it wasn't what you really ended up wanting to do. You wanted to sort of allow yourself to be an artist and to grow into all of that. But it sounds like in the end, actually, it was quite useful, some of those skills that you had developed within that field of working. I mean, that luxury environment's something else, isn't it? And one thing I wanted to ask you about all that, because having got to know you a little bit over various conversations, I know that I think a word, if I was asked to associate with you, I would say, you know, authentic. And I think one of the things that, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm doing extremely very, 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 very rich people a massive disservice, is that they don't always necessarily strike me as being necessarily incredibly authentic. You know, there's something about living that very glamorous, very wealthy, very, very privileged lifestyle that's so far removed from the reality for so many of us, that there's quite a strange pull there, isn't there? So in terms of you embracing, adopting aspects of that, but in a way subverting it for you and making it creative. Because actually, you know, authenticity, having a voice, these are all integral themes that you can see across all of your work.
It's very interesting what you say about that world of incredible wealth and glamour being an escape from reality, because that's a theme that, you know, that I very much see as part of my life and of my work. You know, I always strive to take people to a better, more fantastical, exciting, idealistic, utopian, alternative reality. And I suppose, you know, the draw was already to experience something which was elevating me from, you know, the drudgeries of the real world.
No, I mean, I see that. And I mean, thinking about, I mean, I would encourage people who are on the call to take a look at Thierry's various platforms and website, because there are some absolutely visually stunning and very compelling images on there, and some, you know, downright quite odd as well. I was looking at one the other day and I was thinking, actually, well, that's actually really interesting. And it was more like wearable sculpture, I think, and it was sort of, you know, and the ones that are very much, I think the ones are, and I know that you're going to be talking a bit more about this, because the work that you've been doing more recently in terms of the environment and living in harmony with nature and the dance and the movement, there's a narrative there, isn't there, as well, about man, people, humans, and nature, and what's happening out there in the environment and our relationship with that. And I know that that's something that's also is very important to you.
Yes. I think it really started out for me. I mean, I haven't always been a nature baby, because I grew up in nature, and I think that's what often happens. There's a rejection of, you know, what we knew.
And then you sort of come back in.
That's right. And because you've got that grounding, that you know, that almost that training into understanding and connecting with nature in the early formative years of your life, when you come back to it, there is such a sense of solace and sanctuary that can be experienced. That was an incredible revelation for me, and really marrying my work with this holy, sacred connection that I experienced with the natural world happened when I started Rhino Requiem, which was a series of dance performances, working with improvisational artists, usually in Hampstead Heath, London, and it was following the death of the last white male rhinoceros.
It was just awful, wasn't it?
And it's something, you know, it's something that was in the media and quite a lot of people. And I think that was kind of like, for me, I mean, I'm not terribly media focused, but it felt like we were turning a corner, losing that creature, and the way it was publicized. and it just moved me to absolutely no end. And I don't know why. I never had a specific rhinoceros connection, affinity, but it was, you know, I just felt I need to grieve, and I felt we need to grieve. Humanity needs to start grieving, because if we don't, we are just going to skim over the surface of the destruction that is taking place in the world currently. And we're never... I think that's been...
I just lost you for 1 second there. Got a little blip. I don't know whether it's me or my screen. Hopefully I'll be able to come back in a second. Thank you everyone for your patience. I'm not sure what's happening at the moment. We've got a blip. Oh, you're back. Sorry, I lost you there for a second. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me? Oh, I've lost you again. Can you hear me, Thierry? Sandra, can you hear me on the call? I don't know what's happening. Oh, I think Thierry will come back in. I think that's probably the best thing. Yeah. I'll just wait for them to rejoin. Well, there we go. Brilliant. Okay. So, hopefully.
Massive apology about that, everyone. Totally
No
sorry.
worries. You're back. You're back. You're back.
The internet is down, and I'm out in the sticks in South Devon. Just relying on a bit of 4G, so I got even like closer to the window. that's our only hope for a bit of stability. So sorry. Shall I pick up?
Hopefully we hope. No, don't worry. Don't worry. I think you were just mid-flow, so I'm not sure where we got to.
Well, I was just talking about the you know, the sense of loss and the grieving and the need.
The loss, the grieving, and the rhinoceros. Yes, that's really
yes. So
yeah, and I know that forms a key part of your work, doesn't it? And it makes me think about, you know, just what's happening at the moment out there with all the sewage everywhere. It's just awful, and I don't know. It's just crazy, really. All that amount of sewage that's just been dumped everywhere, and yeah.
We've been living like real, you know, pigs, really. You know, there's no other word. And the planet is at capacity, and it's really coming back to us now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So your new initiative that you set up, is that sort of a retreat? Because I know that you are, you know, there's a spirituality, the spiritual healing is important to you. Is it a retreat that people go away? They do workshops? How does it? Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about your new initiative that you've been setting up?
Yeah, thank you for asking. The Axis Mundi project,
yeah,
is an ecology, art, and well-being initiative that is looking to make it possible for people to access a level of retreat and workshops, education, remembering, learning, growth. It's really a kind of synthesis of the main practices that I've been involved with over the years, and trying to bring these together as I suppose, a form of current package, a relevant package for the new ways of living. For, we're saying about, sewage, we're saying about, loss and grief and, welfare of wildlife and so on. And I just want to bring people's passion out of them again, in a world that has, a world that is essentially, I'm sorry to say, designed to make it incredibly difficult for beautiful, community-minded, harmonious, respectful, loving things to take place. And I'm trying to just create create a space, basically, create somewhere an outlet where this can happen.
There's a comment on there from my friend and dear colleague Penny Hay, who's just put, it sounds like Forest of Imaginations, and actually you're right, Penny. Maybe we need to bring Forest of Imagination and Thierry together. I'm also a trustee of the Forest of Imagination, the House of Imagination, so I need to send you some information about that.
I love the name. Yes,
it's very, very interesting. But just, you're right. It's finding these spaces, it's carving out these spaces. And you talk about you talked a bit about beauty, but thinking about, and I see that a lot in your work, and the sculptures and the sketches and the drawing and the poetry. It's very visually compelling. Often very beautiful. Often it does feel quite. There is, maybe that's the grieving. There is a sort of a sadness to it as well. And thinking about carving out those spaces and discrimination. I mean, we all know that the discrimination, about people who are trying to do things for the right reasons, in the right way, and be as inclusive as possible is not always easy. Well, have I lost you again? Ooh. Okay, I think when Thierry comes back in, I think we're going to have to, I think we're going to have to reschedule. Hey, back.
Crazy.
Yeah. Shall we call it a day? Because it's awful to keep losing you, and people want to hear what you've got to say, properly. And it's just not doing full justice, I think, for all the different aspects that you're involved with. And we can get a new banner together, and I don't know what your availability is like, that we can start to get a new date as soon as possible, whenever you're free. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Do it full justice. Because we'll have the blog piece going out anyway this week, and then we can maybe follow up in the next couple of weeks with part 2 of You and Me.
Yes, grand.
Does that sound all right?
That sounds fine.
Yeah, and then that way we can cover everything, because there's so much. There's just so many aspects to cover, isn't there? So thank you very much to everybody for joining us. Especially thank you to Thierry for all of your patience. And I'm sorry that we haven't been able to do it full justice this time, Thierry, but we will. It will be even more spectacular next time.
No pressure.
And I'll have to try and find another shirt and, you know, try and do something a bit more glamorous next time. So, you know. All right, then I'm going to hop off the call now. I'll give you a quick bell when I get off, Thierry. Thank you to Sandra on the call. Thank you to you all. And when we put the new banner out, please do come and join us, because we're going to be talking about lots of other things that you haven't yet heard. So don't miss part 2. Hello, everybody. I can see people coming in. Hi, Thierry. Link. So just should be coming in any minute now, hopefully. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, hi, hi.
Hey, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
It's a bit close. Hang on. Is that better?
Take my... Yeah.
I'm good. Yes. Oh, what's that? Oh, radiator.
And can you can hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, and you can see me, all right?
Great. Yes. Just give me a second.
Sandra, can you, or somebody who's just joined, could somebody kindly just give me the thumbs up, just to say that they can see and hear both me and Thierry? Okay. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
So, good. Thumbs up. So, yes, I've tried to outdo you, Thierry, with my head.
Let's have a look. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. It suits you so well.
It makes me look like I'm about 12. But
no,
I nearly did this, but I thought it looked a little bit a bit like Nazi Germany. You know, it wasn't happening, so I thought I'll just do that. But actually, it's no competition for you.
I was thinking of Heidi.
Heidi, yeah. Well, I did try. That was my attempt. For people who are joining us, as you can tell, this is going to be a very highbrow discussion as you're coming in. We're covering everything. No, we are. I'm absolutely delighted. So welcome to our first Big Draw Instagram Live drawing conversation of 2022, which is amazing, really.
How exciting. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, a belated Happy New Year to everybody. I can't believe it's 2022 already, and how many of these Instagram lives that we've the Big Draw has already done, which means by now I should know to throw a big blanket over the rest of the bedroom to cover everything that I've forgotten.
Oh yes.
So don't look.
I've been doing lots of covering as well, in case you ask me to show you around the
we have
the
to,
room.
because your room is far more interesting than our room, which is also covered in dust from the building work upstairs. So, but no, first one of the year, so we're trying to get back into the rhythm of things. Thank you for people who have joined already. So for people who are just coming in, we Thierry and I actually did our first session, didn't we? It was towards the end of October last year.
Yeah.
And we covered a fair bit, but we had lots more to talk about, and that was primarily because unfortunately our connection was not great, and so we kept cutting out. So what we said we would do is reconvene in January and maybe pick up onto some of the bits. There was a number of things that I was quite keen to thread out in a little bit more detail, so that almost we could complete that circle about the different aspects of your work, Thierry. So, I mean, and the other thing obviously is that this will stay on Instagram Live. So people who aren't able to just join us live this evening will be able to hop on another time and watch it. And we can also put it on YouTube as well. What we'll do is we'll put it with the other one on YouTube. So it's hard to know where to start, because I say we have already started, and I don't know how many people might have already seen the first section. But a good place to start, Thierry, do you mind introducing yourself? It may be that everyone already knows who you are, who's live on the call with us, but for all those people who might want to look afterwards when it's sitting on Instagram. Sure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Thierry Alexandre, and I'm a polymath. I suppose my life has taken me on an extraordinary arc through that started very much with drag in the late 90s in London, and which was already quite extreme transformation, 8 feet tall sort of drag costumes, and has evolved via Zen research, via psychotherapy, fashion, clowning, and Buto dance, costume making, which kind of draws on kinetic art laws and inspirations, but also on sculpture, so wearable art. And I think, you know, the best way I can describe my creative output in the world is costume-based performance artist. That's kind of what people see me as when I go on the stage or in the public arena. But I'm also working on an ecology, art, and well-being project, which is going to open a centre in Somerset at some point.
Wow, so we need to thread that out during the conversation, don't we? So trying to pick back up. So some of the notes that I had a quick look at what we discussed last time, and what we sort of covered. We covered everything from clowns to concierge, waitering, and a very growing up in a sort of quite a traditional sort of environment, and then sort of escaping, and all a little bit of the earlier journey really of you talking about where you started from and moving over. I think you were just 19 when you moved over. So we covered a bit about that, and then we were just starting to get into a bit of the meat of certain areas where it started to cut out. So it was cutting out as we started to talk about. We started to get a bit more into sort of the line and the movement with the dance, and also I wanted to link that back to drawing and visual literacy and visual thinking, and you know that dynamism that you see in the dance form. That is it. How do you say it? Buto. So because it's very, you can really see the line in it. You know that classic take a line for quote. You can almost see it embodied within. I mean, having had a look at some of the videos around that within that form of dance, and very much the links to health and well-being, which would be good to pick up on as well. So if we start there, and then it'd be good to get on to a bit more of the links to the environment. I really want to unpick a bit about this utopian models and ideals, because I think this is something that I see reflected very strongly in your work. It's almost a harking to, let's try out some utopian models of people living more in better harmony with nature and their surroundings, and for health and for well-being and all that sort of stuff. So it would be good to come on to some of that as well. And then it would be good, I'm sure people always like to have sort of top tips and those sorts of things as well. Next steps about what you're working on at the moment. So maybe we could pick up on some of those broad strands. But if we start with, if we take it back to drawing, so obviously, you know, we are the big draw. And so the big draw, for people who have joined or don't know about the big draw, is it isn't just about traditional drawing. It's about visual thinking, visual literacy, and looking about making marks with meaning. And you could make marks with meaning in the air, visually, with a pencil. You could do it through dance. You could do it with leaves or with pixels or all sorts of ways. It's basically communicating visually, making marks with meaning. So there's some really close links there around movement and dance. But also, one of the things that I touched on when we spoke last, Thierry, was I had also been struck, and you probably don't like the term, but that there's almost like, you know, your little bit of a muse that you're providing in yourself, because on your Instagram account, I remember when I first started to have a look last year, I was very struck by just how many other artists had been inspired by you. And they wanted to do your portraits, you know, some of the beautiful clothes, the beautiful hats, very, you know, the fashion. There was that really strong fashion link there. So that's very interesting. But you do draw and sketch as well. But I think for you, it's very much, it's integral, isn't it? It's this polymathic approach. I suppose I see you as a storyteller. You know, you're telling a compelling story. It's so if I pass that back over to you, if we start to unpick that, because this isn't just about traditional drawing or making marks, it's much more about the line and the movement, isn't it?
I like your analogy of you know, an artist's life as making marks, not just on paper, not just in the art world, but in people's lives and hearts. And I think, you know, ultimately, I'm thinking a lot about mortality actually at the moment. My 95-year-old Nana passed away in November.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you for your good thoughts. And you know, there's this idea around what do we take with us. And it may look like security is a good idea. It may look like wealth and material goods are, you know, what are going to provide for us. But ultimately, people's lives want to be touched. And I think it's taking, I mean, for me, like thinking about my, you know, my grandmother, this what do I remember, you know? And it's not the banknotes that were slipped in the Christmas cards. It's not, you know, the birthday presents or the Christmases with all the gifts pouring out of the fireplace. These were all lovely things, but you know, it's the smells, it's the look, it's someone looking at you, you know. And I wrote the eulogy I wrote. I said, you know, it's time for you to depart. It's a departure we would like to delay for one more moment with one's Nana, a moment with Nana looking down at us and smiling. And it's that human warmth, it's that level of connection which we crave as human beings. And I suppose that's what I'm trying to deliver in a way. And it can be done through drawing, it can be done through costume, through photography, but I feel there is something so elemental and primordial about the physical live presence of another human being. And you know, I might have said this in the previous interview, it's almost as though the choreography and the costumes become accessories. They become almost an excuse to carry through an idea, as you were saying, you know, this storytelling. You're telling a story, but the words don't matter quite so much. It's the energy present. It's the level of vulnerability that you can unveil, that you can share, that you can craft out of the moment, out of the willingness of audience members to be there with you, to go on this journey with you.
I think that's a really important point, actually. Sorry to interrupt you. Is they are it does need that as well, doesn't it? It does need the viewer, the audience, to engage. Maybe not necessarily directly interact in a direct sense, but then you need to buy into it. You know, you need to be there and engage in, you know, and buying into what's happening. It's sort of an immersive experience, and the work that you do is very immersive and multifaceted. I really liked what you said about it's that idea of what you take and what you leave. And I think that in terms of and linking and starting to think about environment and art and how we balance how people live today, nature, and what they do take and what they do leave. And unfortunately, we're all taking an awful lot and not putting a lot back in, and probably leaving all the really rubbish things that we shouldn't leave. I think there's something there, isn't there, about the role of an artist who helps to shine a light on that, helps to narrate that, and helps to reach a wider audience to tell that story in a compelling way so that people might actually listen.
Yes. I think ultimately it's going to touching people. You know, it's about going to those places within where someone is either going to laugh, or is going to cry, or is going to be moved, or is going to feel transcendental in the face of you know, someone else's expression. And that is where the potential for change exists. That is where the spark to care for the world more can be found, to care for ourselves more, you know, to look after our precious, delicate selves, and thus look after other people. So it's still very much
safe spaces and care. Again, is a really, I know it's something that a lot of it's, you know, care is out there. You know, a community of care is out there, but I think it needs to be done with such integrity, and it's not just, you know, saying let's be nice to each other. It's building environments that feel safe and genuinely inclusive and supportive, and I think to you know, and I think where you can have a sense of freedom as well. I mean, I'm wondering whether this might be a good place to start to think about the project that you're developing. And I touched on this, you know, this sort of desire, and I think you see it across all of your work, this sort of desire for a better place, a utopian model where people can, you know, it goes back to, I mean, if you go back to so many, you know, News from Nowhere, all these books, you know, William Morris, John Wright, they've all written about these utopian places and communities and models, and in the past, a lot of them were talking about it in the Victorian period. I think many of them tried to do it and failed miserably for all sorts of different reasons. But you do have an initiative, haven't you, that you're starting to develop? Is that the Axis Mundi project?
That's right.
Which does thread together quite a lot of the different strands of the work that you've been developing over the last 10 years. Or so.
Yes.
Would you be able to tell us a bit more about this?
Yes. I call it a synthesis project, you know, trying to synthesize what the arc of my journey has been like, and to create a platform, an opportunity for people who are hoping, thinking, or forced to undertake a similar journey, to have a network, to have a place where they can do that, to have, you know, as you were saying, a safe environment where they can be nurtured, evolved, and developed. So this is, you know, and kind of like looking back at everything I'm interested in, really, ecology is really is at the fore of everything that I truly care about. And it should be for many more of us. And this is looking at, you know, the new ways of living, the new ways of being, you know, how, when cities saturate, when, you know, when food shortages start to happen more regularly, because we're already living in a, you know, at a time where it's happening, and it's something that we are managing to disguise and delay, but ultimately, you know, we're heading for very different times. And I think, you know, looking at how we can encourage each other to grow with those times, and particularly, I've been in London 25 years. My tribe is here. My friends are here. My chosen family is here. And in a sense, I'm aware that air pollution and rising rent levels, lowering life standards here are going to mean people aren't feeling so blessed anymore living in cities, and I kind of want to create a channel to the country, a satellite, to show and encourage what is possible, and to invite people from our tribes to come and connect with the reality of the countryside, to rural living, which may sound daunting when you're creative, when you're an eccentric, when you're a minority, when you're queer, but the reality is the shift has already been happening, and people are moving out in droves and are creating small communities and centers, left, right, and center. And I'm kind of just very much exporting what I believe in, so that those communities and the rural creatives with this hunger for growth have an outlet to come and feel safe, with the understanding that there is Axis Mundi, there is a place, and that place is connected to local communities, is connected to other centers that are, so it's not about feeling isolated away from what we know, but actually creating something different in a much more thriving and nurturing environment. So harvesting.
What's your vision for it? So is it made up of workshops? Is it a sort of a retreat model? Is it sort of a type of mentoring, a creative mentoring, a peer group? Or maybe all of those things.
All of those things. It's a center. It's a ecology, art, and well-being center, where very much we will be running workshops and we will be running events. It's a more than trans-artistic. It's a trans cross-disciplinary co-creative.
Yes, it's all about co-everything now, isn't it? Co-curating.
Is that so?
Co-consuming everything.
Right.
Which is
right.
Good.
Yes. And very much the idea is to invite people and to help them understand what we're trying to do, help them understand something or discover something new about themselves, and then share that. It's this kind of ongoing evolution, society, evolutionary creative machine that I want to kickstart on the outside, and we will be looking at how to build your own shelter. What does land cost outside London? How do you harvest your own energy?
It's not just, because obviously there's a strong sort of spiritual thread within this, but this is also sort of quite practical.
Yes.
Very, very practical logisticals. Okay, actually, this is what you might need to consider if you can't afford to live in London and you're looking to locate somewhere else.
That's right. And that's what things look like, and how to create biodiversity. How to it's really creating like a museum, but a living museum of individuals, of wildlife, of nature, of edible foods, of ponds and waters, just really reconnecting with the organic nature and cycles of life, while of course having fun with the arts, with performance, developing across platforms across genres, poetry blending into music, embracing dance, and so on. And the well-being aspect, which is very dear to me, and which in this time is
more important than ever, isn't it?
Absolutely. And this is looking at things from nutrition to health to fitness to self-care, self-love, healing, all the
it's a huge vision. It's a huge vision. So Kate Smith Designs just said it sounds fantastic. So are you thinking that this will it have a physical one base, or is it more of a pop-up type space in partnership with other venues and communities? I mean, I suppose I'm just thinking that I think there might be people that either here now listening, or maybe they'll watch it on Instagram another time. They might think, well, that sounds interesting. I want to get involved. I want to get involved in this.
Yeah.
What would they do?
There's a plan. So what would they do?
What would they do? Would they get in touch with you and say, I love what you're developing? I mean, what would be
yes, that would be the best thing at this stage. I mean, in a sense, we're early days and not so much. This has been in the thinking box for a couple of years, quite intensely, and actually we're putting in the paperwork to create a community interest company.
That's amazing.
This week it's happening.
You've got there's a timeline. This is it's tangible. It's happening.
That's right. Yeah. The next stage for me will be to organize a crowdfunding. So explaining to every person that will let me talk to them what I've just explained to you, and say, we're looking to rent a property in Somerset, and would you give a small monthly donation? We know a lot of artists who don't have a lot of money, but if Jake gives £2 and Jenny gives £1, and you multiply that by 2,000 kind hearts who believe in something, you can start.
I think it's a very compelling proposition as well. And I mean, are you seeing this as something very inclusive? Is this for everybody who would be interested in taking? How are you seeing it?
Well, yes, it's not for everybody, I don't think. Because there will, I'm interested in people really growing, in people taking responsibility for themselves, and in very much providing everything that this entails. So we're already looking at individuals who have come to that place in their lives.
It's a big emotional investment for them as well, isn't it? It's not just, oh, I'm going to go to a creative workshop for a bit. It's actually something that would be life-changing for them. Well,
potentially. I mean, it just depends. It depends whether people are. Yes. It depends if people are open to this. Yeah. It's kind of part of it is in our control to offer something and to share a vision with people. But if all they are ready for is to come and spend a weekend workshop of creative mélange or something more specific, then so might it be. But at least you've planted a seed. Yeah. At least this person knows, oh, Axis Mundi exists. Axis Mundi, is developing, and perhaps later in time they will want to join. But being a teetotal myself, I'm kind of interested in also a place where people want to come together in consciousness. So I don't want the events particularly to become alcohol.
No, it's not that. It's not that.
Because I want to offer. Actually, I want to enlighten people to the idea that they don't need substances. They don't need enhancement. They don't need to be this or that, or look like this, look like that, to feel that they can belong, to feel that they, you know, that they are safe, that they are welcome, you know, that they are valued. So
Sandra's just written, Thierry, she's just written, I'll bring a bottle of elderflower. Sandra is elderflower cordial, I have to say.
Have you tried it?
She goes everywhere, she takes elderflower cordial.
I do the same with kombucha.
What is that?
Kombucha
is
a fermented tea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm a bit like that with my peppermint tea, but not quite as exciting as yours. Not quite. Well, I mean, it sounds incredible, and obviously we wish you well, and hopefully you'll keep the big draw in the loop with how you get on with that, because obviously we would love to help support and share the crowdfunder when it's up and running. So
thank you kindly.
Keep us posted on that. But there's so much in there, and I think it's such a great thing to talk about, because actually it does encapsulate so many of the things that we were touching on both in the last session and a little bit earlier. So I mean, I wanted to really, one of the things that we started, you know, you're talking about a safe space and, you know, and diversity and all the rest of it. And do you think, I mean, in terms of inclusivity and, you know, discrimination, do you feel, obviously, you know, COVID and I don't know, have things improved? Do you think that there are more safe spaces out there? Do you think that the tide has turned a bit? Do you think things are going in the right direction? I mean, I noticed that this week, you probably saw it in the news, that there was quite a big fanfare in a lot of the media this week with the new queer museum, which opened in Granby Square, King's Cross. I think it's the old Art Fund. It's the Art Fund building. I think it's where the House of Illustration probably used to be based. So they've, you know, that was there was lots of fanfare and announcement around that. I mean, do you feel that things are shifting for the better?
On the whole, they are. You know, on the whole, there's wonderful progress happening. I think we just need to be cautious of, you know, I mean, there's a tendency now to almost, I find, segregate within those pockets that have been seeking inclusion their entire existence. I think I might have said last time, there's not really any scenes where I feel welcome, where
you personally feel is your tribe. Yes,
that's right. Yes. I've had to create, you know, my own tribe, my own family, my own movement.
It's a move. I think it is. I was going to say, it sounds like a movement with the new initiative.
In a sense.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, there's it's difficult, isn't it? Because the internet kind of complicates everything, and people have become
it's pros and cons, hasn't there? There's been so many benefits for so many people.
That's right.
Well, more of these types of things, but then certainly there's drawbacks with it as well.
There is, and we're not precluded from walking back from, you know, from where we are at either. As a country, you know, our freedoms and our rights, as you know, as most people are aware, are very much, you know, kind of being gradually eroded, and that means that unfortunately and potentially minority groups won't have the protections and the support that we are benefiting from at the moment. So it's, but you can also look at it as a you know, as a curve, you know, an ongoing curve of evolution, and things get better and then they get worse and then they get a bit better than they'd been the time before, only to fall back into a cycle of, you know, more narrow-minded heteronormative, unimaginative blandness. And we're kind of, you know, I feel we're kind of at the bottom of that curve at the moment. And my feeling for 2022, if it can cheer anyone up, is that we're going to go back up, you know. And I know it may look difficult when you weigh all the issues that we have to contend with in this, you know, in this particular time, but it is possible. And my personal feeling is that after these years of incredible challenge, there is something in the air that is that holds the potential to deliver some of us.
Some real change for the better.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. I wanted to, so, I mean, leading on from that, thinking a little bit more about COVID. So we've talked about one dimension of the impact with COVID, thinking about digital and that. I mean, for you, with the various lockdowns, have you found that has given you space to really find new creative opportunities, or have you found that actually it's been a bit restrictive because you haven't been able to be more out and about and use, you know, the external world for inspiration, or has it really given you an opportunity to hone in? And I mean, you've got this big initiative that you're developing.
Yes. Well, I suppose it has encouraged, if not forced me to look at to look at, you know, the Axis Mundi project a little bit closer. It has also forced me definitely to look at things about myself, at layers of my own pain that were so deep that only a period of uninterrupted aloneness could allow me to go quite so deep and touch. It was almost like I needed to touch the bottom of my personal abyss so that I could, you know, press my foot onto its core and spring back up.
Leap back up again.
Yes. And it's been, you know, extremely challenging. And I think we've all experienced those challenges in different ways. But I find it fascinating that, you know, for the vast majority, it was just such a terrible time, wasn't it? And it was not all connected to the fact that we couldn't see each other. It was just such a difficult time on so many levels, of so many things that could go wrong, possibly going wrong. And it felt at times that everything was shrinking. But
definitely, I think everybody's worlds shrank. Even though with all the digital, and everyone's talking about the benefits of digital, and I'm not knocking digital, I think there are lots of benefits. There are downsides to it, but even with that, it's not the same. It's not the same. I think a lot of people's worlds shrunk. I mean, just my two children, I know they found that aspect particularly challenging, and they're used to seeing their friends every day and having that sort of that physical experience of being with their friends and being in the school environment. And it's just not the same doing your work on a laptop and seeing your friends over Zoom. You know, their world shrinks massively. I think that was the case for a lot of people. And a lot of people have had lots of mental health challenges, haven't they? Around, I think tip of the iceberg. I don't think there's any sense of what's coming around the corner as regards that. Everyone's been holding everything together so tight. It's like get through. It's almost like, are we there yet? We're not quite sure. And even if we do turn a corner, it's going to be like almost like you let go of your breath. What happens next?
Yes.
So I think it will be interesting to see what the impact of that is. I mean, I on a personal level, I mean, I just find I'm just very tired. Or maybe I'm just getting old. But there's that sort of malaise, that exhaustion that you get, and I think it's just that perpetual, or coming through the end of it all and thinking, is it going to be okay? Is it going to, you know, it's and it wears. It does wear.
Yes. The thing is, within that shrinking, I think is an opportunity. There is something that through our physical separation has actually brought us together. And we live in a world that is changing so fast and that is going to keep changing at an even faster rate. And this was, I feel, an opportunity to take stock of where are we at, and this is going back to what are we taking away, you know,
what we're taking away and what we're leaving behind.
That's right. And where are our value systems placed? What do we value in this world, in this life now, and why, and how does it serve us, and how does it not? And you know, this was a forceful invitation for most people to start weighing, you know, just to take stock from this manic existence that we you know, we're humans were never designed to deal with the amount of information and tasks and responsibilities that we are now having to deal with.
Right.
And this was really saying, okay, back to basics, hang on a minute and look at what matters to you.
There's been some very interesting research, hasn't there, recently, where they've been showing that it's not just kids either, but adults as well not have lost, but it's gone down in a measurable way, their capacity to concentrate, because they're so, people have started to be so conditioned into sort of switching between, okay, Twitter, let's do it on Instagram, oh, I must do those emails, I've got those calls to make, oh, must do this, must do that, and it's bang, 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 because that's the pace that these technologies and these platforms move at. But our brains are not necessarily set up to move quite in that way. And actually, we're better off having concentrated blocks of time. You know, it's just having to be better about how you spend your time. But it's very easy for, I think, your brain to get a bit frazzled because it is just so fast paced, and there's not really any let up. And then we're spending all our time online, aren't we? So there's something there, isn't there, about this slowing down, which probably maybe it is encourage people to think more about. But, you know, a slower living, slowing down, thinking about things a bit more, maybe not taking things for granted as much, taking pleasure in small things. It's all the mindfulness. It's nothing really new, but it's maybe force people to think about it a bit more.
You know, I did a lot of Zen training and workshops with the brilliant Greg Branson at the Helios Center. And his entire body of work boils down to just that: slow right down. The channel
it sounds so easy, but it's so difficult. I mean, oh God, I couldn't do it. It's so challenging. It is so difficult.
Yes, because
I do it into that flow. Let's say get into your flow, get into the zone. The only time I can do that is occasionally when I am drawing. If I draw really detailed drawing, and I don't, and there's no noise, and the kids aren't being away, and I can just, and I do get lost a bit in the drawing. That's very, very, very rare. It doesn't happen with me with reading or anything else. It's really only with drawing I can do.
Yes.
You know that thing where you think 5 minutes has gone and it's an hour's gone.
Yes.
Your breathing changes, and
that's right. But you can induce those states.
Apparently, so I have not been able to do it. So.
Have you tried? It's really pretty marvelous. Yoga Nidra.
No, I've tried a bit of yoga, but
it's well. This is not yoga as you know it. Nidra means what does it mean? I think it means sleep yoga, and it's a guided meditation that takes you through every single part of your body, pinky finger, index, middle finger. And it just encourages you to just let go, just relax. And you can really, in very short sessions, and the more you do it, and you only have to do 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, but the more you do it, the more you can experience yourself as, you know, in that space of grace, in that state of absolute relaxation. And I think this is the kind of thing that should be compulsory. in workplaces, in education buildings, because of, you know, the levels of stress.
Because of the levels of stress.
Exactly. And they, you know, they lead to poor mental health, to poor physical health, to poor relationships, to poor choices.
Yeah, it's all connected, isn't it?
Absolutely. But it all starts with slowing down, you know, just stopping, just and being strong, in a sense, saying, I am not going to scroll Instagram, I am not going to watch that live interview with
but obviously we want them to watch one. This can be the exception.
Yes, it must.
I had somebody that's just said, so I love the guided meditation, it works well to relax and sleep.
Oh, how wonderful. Thank you,
Estelle Riviere.
Yes, that's the amazing Estelle Riviere who creates these fabulous costumes. And Estelle made this gorgeous glove for me. I always have it nearby.
Following you, Estelle, shouldn't we?
And yeah, check her profile out.
I will.
Far out costume. I mean, you think my world is alternative. I mean, I suppose I create a utopian vision. She's into the dystopian stuff. You know?
It isn't it? It's all connected. So what I was also interested in, I wanted we've sort of talked around it a little bit, but just for when this goes and sits on Instagram, for anybody on the call now, and I know very little about it. Can you tell us a bit more about the dance form that you integrate across many of your performances?
Actually, Buto is sometimes called anti-dance. Okay. And I point it out now because it's probably the only way that I can jerk someone who's not familiar with it into, you know, looking or imagining what we're talking about. But they also say that it's a philosophy, it's a way of life. And, you know, again, as you've noticed, a lot of the movement is achingly slow and meaningful and cathartic in many ways. And it's again, you know, thinking about this slow core. And when you go to this place of slow movement, slow dance, you have an opportunity to connect to the wholeness of your experience, the wholeness of the human earthly experience. And most of dance, you know, concerns itself with elegance and grace and lightness. Buto is trying to probably redress a balance by embodying the animal within, by readopting our inner shaman, by contacting and channeling our, you know, fiercest and deepest and sometimes darkest emotions, and transferring them into a movement form more than a dance form. Yeah. But a movement form that has the potential to be charged with such truth, such power, that it is transformative for people practicing it and for people who are witnessing Buto dance. This is how I relate to it. Now, Buto doesn't have any prerequisite steps or you know, sets. Anyone who explores Buto can take it in the direction that works for them. So in that sense,
it's very accessible in that sense.
It is. It's absolutely incredible. You know, it's one of the rare dance forms that someone, you know, paraplegic or otherwise disabled, people with learning disability can all access and communicate and embrace, because it, you know, there is no criteria as such besides the criteria, for my part, in my opinion, of being as deeply connected to the parts of yourself as you are connected to the audience, to the people that you are performing for or with. And you know, this is I think why I persevered with Bhutto, because it felt like the potential that I could carry through that particular art form was exceeding anything else I had come across up to that point. And
I've just spotted a note on there. So lovely Sumi has said, I don't know if he's Sumi, do you say, is it Nidra or Nidra is Sanskrit for sleep. Ninda is sleep in Sinhalese. So just referencing what you were saying earlier.
yes.
One thing I was thinking about, Thierry, when you were speaking, was that with the pace of the dance, of the movement, it is very slow, and you were saying it's very accessible. I remember I used to do a lot of ballet up until about the age of 18, and it's incredibly hard to do slow dancing in a very smooth fashion. So going through, it's quite easy. It's easier to do it almost quicker. But when you're moving very, very slowly, it does take quite strong inner core to do it in a smooth fashion. So, I mean, do you practice daily? Because it does take some strength.
It requires strength, but I think more so it requires a state of mind where one surrenders. A lot of what I see in Bhutto is about surrendering what we conceive as graceful or beautiful movement, and instead allowing the body to do the work. So of course, if you are voluntarily and achingly trying to pull back on your natural idea and elan towards dance and movement, it's going to be very difficult. And I'm not saying that Bhutto is easy anyway, but it does, it's like you just kind of like slip. It's almost like going to sleep. You slip back into a different dynamic, you convert into a state where it's actually more comfortable to be slow. It's actually more exciting to be on the floor, barely moving. It's more communicative to be standing almost completely still in front of an audience than it would be twirling a million tutus.
Yeah, I'm just imagining me. Because I think because I probably would be overthinking it and trying to make sure I got each bit perfect. But that's exactly the point you're not supposed to do, isn't it? I've just had a text from Sandra who's reminded me that we have about 9 minutes left. So the other things that I have on my list were, I think it would be really lovely to start to pull some of these things together and for you to share with, for this recording, and so that when it sits as there as an asset on our Instagram account, to share, if you're happy to do so, with some of those really joyous projects or moments that you've worked on, because there is a lot of joy in the work. I mean, I know we've pulled out some of the more challenging bits, but I think joyful is something that runs through the work. I mean, do you have a favorite project? Is there something that you've really loved doing, or that is it been because of the collaboration, because of the people that you're working with? Has it been because of the costume? Is there something that for you is a sort of a standout project that you've done?
I suppose. I mean, there's been many moments of magic with my performance company, the Time Bomb Theatre, and the feedback, you know, is something that really overwhelms. Really, you know, it can be quite overwhelming for an artist when actually your impact is felt deeply, and that people take the time to let you know about it. You know, that's always something deeply enriching. But talking of joy, I suppose the salon that I occasionally run in Soho are called Salon Crème Anglaise, which
Crème Anglaise, yeah.
Which you
I've got to come. I
That's
just
the one.
suppose it looks
Not,
so
not Blancmange. It's definitely Salon Crème Anglaise. And why? I mean, actually, the first two were exhausting. You know, the logistics. You know, there's something between 30 and 40 volunteers, and it's only a capacity of about 90.
Yeah,
so you know,
yeah.
like basically half the
Space, is it? I think I know.
half the space is people who are contributing in one way or another, and it's a, you know, it's a trans artistic, again, co-creative platform. But one of the moments of deep redemption for me was the last salon, which we had on March 13, 2019, so about 3 days before the first lockdown.
Right, ages ago.
Was to lose control over it, that I was no longer in control of what was going on. And in that lies incredible freedom. And I think it's a moment I've been resisting really hard.
Hard to give up creative control, I think, to something when it's, especially if it's your baby and you've been the driver behind it, to pass that over and trust in the process and those individuals. It takes trust, doesn't it?
It's about people, because we had got to a point where people understood the direction that I was steering this monster towards, and all of a sudden people started grabbing microphones and joining in on a musical piece by improvising vocally. Someone, you know, deeply autistic, who'd been walking around the space all evening, suddenly found that moment where they were going to sit on the piano and started playing this incredible piece, right? And then someone shoving a microphone in their face, and suddenly that voice is coming out as well, and it's superb. Wow. And then you can no longer stop this person. They've been at it for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I'm waiting to go on. And then during my performance, again, a friend picks up a microphone while I'm dancing with Time Bomb Theatre. And they start narrating what they see. You know, this is a singer-songwriter, and they started narrating. And I'd had about a 10-minute meeting with the musicians, and I said, look, this is roughly what's going to happen. And they're just improvising and going completely wild. And someone has started doing Mongolian throat singing in the second microphone.
Well, I want to come to that. I've got my outfit already in mind. I would love to come when things get back up running again. I would love to come to that. Yes,
you must. I mean, it is just you know, stupendous. And someone was saying, there's nothing quite like it. I said, no, that's why I'm having to do it, because there is nothing like it. And I know it's possible, and I know that's what people are hungry for. And you know, that's what we're providing. So as soon as I find the next person to help me organize the next event, we'll be putting dates in diaries.
Yeah,
Watch out.
I'd love to come.
And start working on your outfits, everyone else.
I really do have one in mind. I do have one in mind. Yeah. It's quite flamboyant. It'll be all right. I think it'll be all right. I know, because you're thinking, oh, she won't have one flamboyant enough.
Oh.
You'd be surprised, yeah. Surprised, that's all I would say. In terms of, so we've talked a bit about that. The other thing I wanted to sort of round off with, because we've got just a couple of minutes left, was I'll have Sandra texting me again, saying, hurry up, Kate. Do you have any tips? You know, if there's anybody on this, who's still on the call, who might watch it at a later date, from a point of view of, well, anything really, from the journey that you've been on. I mean, you know, the discrimination that you faced. I mean, I know you're a huge champion. I mean, you've referenced your tribe, and you've talked about, I suppose, a sort of evolving queer community. I mean, it's, you know, it's evolving all the time, and finding those safe spaces. I mean, you're a great and amazing advocate, incredibly creative. But do you have any advice? Do you have tips for people? What would you do differently if you could go back? If there's somebody saying, well, you know, I would like to do X, Y, and Z. What would you say? What would you say to them? Just thinking how we round off, because it's been we've covered all sorts of different topics.
Yes.
Wonky.
I mean, there's really only one thing to say, you know, on such a sort of general topic.
Yeah.
Be yourself.
Be true to yourself. Yeah.
Follow your heart. You know.
Follow your heart in all things.
That's what I've always done.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, but it brings about what we need rather than what we want.
I think it also, if you're honest and authentic to yourself, in the long term, you're going to feel better, aren't you? Happier, healthier, and be more productive, because you're working with the grain rather than against the grain.
That's
Otherwise,
right.
you're working against yourself.
And unfortunately, we live in a world which is encouraging us, if not coaxing, forcing us into going against the grain.
Well, it's forcing that sameness, you know. It's that everything, all the buildings look the same. There's no variety. There's no colour. There's no, you know, it's all feeling a bit drab.
Yes, it's a uniformity. Which
homogenized buildings and art. It's all, you know, need to get
a prerequisite for a broken capitalist system, you know.
That's a whole different Instagram live. I don't know. I couldn't help but dip into PM's questions today. I couldn't stop myself, and I shouldn't have bothered. I keep going, so I'm going a bit crooked on the screen. But yes, it was pretty terrifying. Yeah, on that note. Is there anybody on the call? Does anybody have any questions for Thierry that they would like to put into the chat? We've covered a lot of ground, and this is obviously part 2. So I think we've covered quite a lot of ground between us. So if we finish now, Thierry, but what would be your parting words before we round off?
I could show you around the flat.
Oh, yes.
And put some music on, and have a, you know, just have a visual musical odyssey as a goodbye.
Well, the room is lovely. I think people are so nosy. They always like to look inside people's spaces.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you so much for everybody. So I'm going to just stay on for a little bit longer.
Thank you, Kate.
So we can see around. Oh, look. Thierry, listen, lovely. Thank you so much again for your time. Let me know when your crowdfunder's up and out there, so we can help you share it.
I will, my dear. Thank you so much for your support, for your lovely
pleasure.
Commitment to the arts. And
we're going to be doing more together. I know we will be.
That's fantastic.
Thank you to everybody that joined.
Yes, thank you everyone who commented and made it possible for us to be here today. Thank you to all of Kate's assistants and helpers and friends who are making wonderful things happen with the big draw.
Yep, there's lots going on. Please do visit our website. Start following us if you're not already. Sign up to our newsletter. All the usual sorts of things.
What have we got here? Jewellery.
There's a jewellery. Are you getting lots of hearts coming into this? They're nosy. They're so nosy. They love seeing it. When we do like studio talks with artists, they just want to look into people's studios. It's really nosy.
Wonderful.
Okay, I'm gonna close us off now.
Bye everyone.
Stop recording. So thank you so much to Thierry. Thank you to all of you. And we will be doing another Instagram live in a few weeks' time. So watch this space. We'll be announcing who that'll be with quite soon.
Bye. Thanks again.
Bye, lovely. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.